The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Kev, New Year. Do you do resolutions, or are you not that sort of person? I know not everybody does resolutions, do they?
I do resolutions. I just don't usually keep them.
All right. Are they done by now then? What's your resolution? Give me your top 3 resolutions.
Well, so this year I want to get myself fitter, start the process of going for my second dance, start fighting for that. That's it, really.
Well, there's supposed to be a third, Kev. What's the third one? Is there anything involved in work, or have we retired from work altogether now?
Yeah, get my course out.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's going all right, though, isn't it? Your course? You're recording it like mad?
Hopefully a few weeks' time, hopefully.
Oh, so that's a wedding course. So it's start to finish wedding course, isn't it? Start as a non-believer in getting married, end as a I truly believe in nuptials.
Yes, exactly that, yes.
And I want to photograph everybody doing it.
A lesson from somebody who's been married twice.
Of course, yes, I forgot.
The FujiCast.
I forgot that bit. But that's all right, Kev. It's all right because you can say, don't do what I did first time around. I mean, it's not a marriage guidance counselling thing, though, is it? It's just how to be a wedding photographer. Well, it'd be good when that's coming. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Do I get a sneak preview at all?
Yeah, I'll give you an access to it.
Well, no, I'm not asking for full access, Kev. I'll pay my way. But
you don't know how much it is yet.
Well, yeah, how much is it then?
Well, I don't know how much it is yet either. So, I don't know.
Is this like
I'm working all of that out.
Finger in the air and make it up exercise?
Yeah, well, I got ChatGPT to run some figures for me. He was very clever, my friend Bob. And I told him all about the Squarespace prices for different tiers and things like that. And it went, right, this is probably your best bet if you want to make this amount of money per day. And I was like, yeah, okay, all right, fair enough, that'll go.
So ChatGPT has set the whole parameter of this thing, have they?
They certainly helped me work out the margins, that's for sure, yeah.
Well, I don't tell them too much because they'll be making their own video. They'll be saying, that Mullins bloke's making a video. Should we do it? Should we do one, guys? Yeah. And we'll AI Kev's face. Nobody will know the difference. But, well, good luck. I'm looking forward to that coming out. So here we are.
Yeah, what's your resolutions?
Well, the first one I said, actually, around the table the other day, got a real kind of, I just said, I want to be more kindly. That was the main one, actually. And Jack said, what do you mean kind? I said, no, kindly. Kindly is sort of like an action you take through life. Kindly towards other people. I don't feel I've been my best self, Kev, over the last 4 years. I think COVID has had a lot to do with that. I met a guy, actually.
Changed a lot of people, didn't it?
Yeah, no, I met a guy on the dog walk this morning. And his name was Martin. Do you know him?
Yeah, I do actually. Martin with the dog.
Yeah. No, he didn't have No. He had an electric bicycle.
Oh, different Martin.
Different Martin. I was just helping him through. He was really struggling with a gait, and I said, "Would you like me to help?" He said, "No, it's all right." And I thought, "No, just." And I helped him through, and he said, "It's been a horrible year, isn't it?" That was his opening gambit to me. I said, "We've only just started." He said, "No, I mean the last few years." And so he's had COVID 5 times. His wife has had COVID 3 times. He told me all about his son, who is what does he do for a living? He does something very spectacular. He's very down at the moment about business, and I had his whole life story, Kev. And he said he had a taxi company. He had 10 cabs around Newbury, and now it's gone. It's all gone, Kev.
Yeah, so I was reading about the Uber drivers yesterday and how little money they make. It's quite shocking.
Yeah, I thought Uber drivers were on a good thing, but they're not, are they?
No, not really. Apparently, so I didn't know this, but with Uber, they don't know how much the person sat in the back has paid for the ride. They just get a commission. So Uber set the fee randomly based on demand and all that kind of stuff. So if somebody sat in the back is paying 10 quid for a ride, the fella driving the front or the lady driving in the front gets, whatever. I don't know what the percentage is. Let's just say 25%. Person in the back might be paying 100 quid, but they don't know that.
So, but would Uber tell them if they'd give them the proper amount of the 100 quid, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it'd be illegal otherwise. But yeah, so they don't know, which is and their percentages haven't gone up since way before COVID, but the price of a ride has gone up a lot.
Yeah, it has.
They're earning less, basically.
Well, there we go. And so anyway, Happy New Year.
Yes, Merry New Year.
Kindly is one. I want to be kindlier, Kev, because I don't think that that has been my best side over the last 4 years. I've struggled with it, Kev. I have. Same as you, though. I've got to go and get fit. And there's no get fitter. It's get fit. And there must be a third. What could the third be, Kev? I don't know. I haven't got a third.
Don't know.
We'll just deal with those. Just deal with those two to start with.
Yeah, well, they're good ones to have.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Talking of gratitude, thank you very much to our sponsors over the last 2 years now or so, maybe longer. Pick Time, who've been with us, who are just the best place to show your pictures when you've done your job, whether it's a wedding job, commercial job, actually doing art stuff on there as well. Whatever, great place to go and show it on a gallery made through Pick Time, pick-time.com. You can champion certain images, make some larger. It's a really easy place to then sell on prints or frames. You can do it for different regions as well. Kev, you do your albums, talked about this many times, you do albums through it. In the new year now that weddings are not quite a distant memory of shooting, but getting more distant, Kev, what are you going to be putting on Pick Time in the future?
I don't know. I mean, well, I'll still use it for my portrait stuff and commercial stuff. I've just booked a actor headshot this morning, in fact, so that'll be the delivery mechanism for that still. So, and all my family things. So yeah, it will. I'll still be paying my fees, and keeping it going. It's still a very important part of my business.
That's interesting. Actor headshots. Is that something you're planning to do more of in the new year, this year?
Well, I've got a few on my website, and
I know.
I got an email over Christmas, and the chap was like, "Oh yeah, I really like the ones you do." So he's from Bath or Bristol, I think. So he's going to come over next week, and we'll get those done.
Nice one. Right, questions. Launching it. We don't have a book to start the year with, do we?
No, we do not.
No. But we do have plenty of questions. You've got Facebook. I've got the ones that you send in to click@fujicast.co.uk. Do you want to launch with a Facebook one?
Yeah, so first of all, for those in the Facebook group, there is a new thread at the top of the page now that says questions for the show 2025. And it's all clean and empty. So fill your boots and put your questions in there and we will get to them. We do still have a whole load from last year, obviously, that we've still got, thanks to Neil. He's spreadsheeted it all up for us.
Other Neil.
The other Neil. And we will still work through those as well. So fear not if your question hasn't been answered. But at the same time, feel free to post in the new post if you feel like we just forgot it, because it might have happened.
And it's great having Neil on board, by the way. He is now officially looking after. He's now got his admin shoes on, hasn't he? He's looking after the Facebook group. He's got
an admin badge.
He's got an admin badge. He's got a badge and a hat. Mm-hmm. And he will be checking your shoes as you come in the room. So
right. So So the first question for the new year for 2025 is from Steve Fellon, and he says, "Hello, fellas, from sunny California. 2 questions for you. One, if you could have made the same money to date as you have made in wedding photography, but could have done it doing any other type of photography, what would you have done?" So let's deal with that question first. Good question.
It is a good question.
I've had that before.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. Travel photography would have been lovely. I'd like to have, done travel photography or portraits, actually. Quite like the idea of editorial portraits. There's quite a few photographers whose editorial work I really like. Yeah, I think editorial work doing the magazine spreads and the front pages for, I don't know, the Times or whatever, Times Magazine, portrait shots. Chris Floyd's work I love. You know Chris Floyd.
Yeah.
I'd love to do the sort of work he's done in his career. That would have been great.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm toying. But this is a good question. So I'm throwing 2 answers up in the air. One of them would be the kind of rural documentary work like James Revilius did. That would have been nice.
Kev Revilius.
But actually, I think probably I would go for sports photographer.
Oh,
great.
Would you have specialised in any particular sport?
Well, I stumbled across somebody over Christmas, actually. I can't remember his Instagram now, but he specialises in judo and synchronised swimming. Believe it or not.
I wasn't expecting those two to be married together.
No, I wasn't either. I'm not that fussed on synchronised swimming, but some of his pictures were amazing, from under the pool and all that kind of thing.
Oh, is he the guy that does the pic? Oh, maybe it's been done many times.
He's not. He won't be the one that
turns them upside down.
But he's got that kind of thing. But the judo stuff was amazing because he's he's one of the official kind of photographers for the IJF, International Judo Federation. So he gets to go everywhere. He's been at all the last kind of 12 Olympics and, maybe not 12, that'd make him a very old person, but certainly the last 4. And all over all the Grand Slams, everything, a lot of travel. But yeah, I'd love that. There's a Grand Slam every week, you see, in judo, every 2 weeks. So
is it?
Love it. Yeah, that'd be good.
God, you'll never be at home, Kev.
No, I know, that's the only downside. Yeah, I don't like not being at home, so that would be a downside.
Gemma's currently signing you up.
She probably is. Yeah, she probably is.
She's bought your first jet ticket. You're off on Monday.
Okay, and the second question from Steve was, are either of your wives photographers? And if not, have you ever tried to get them interested in the art so that you would have a photo partner? Okay.
Sam she was my second shooter in weddings when we started the wedding business for not a long time, but a few years. Then we had we had Jack quite quickly, I suppose, after the business had started. So it didn't last long. But she came to do quite a few of the second shooting jobs. And then when she went, I didn't have a second shooter after that. I had a couple of people that knocked around with me here and there to photograph, but really Sam was the second shooter. She did some, she did this, hang on a moment. Yeah, she did the schoolwork as well with somebody who we employed called Joey. The two of those went out and did all the schoolwork. They were great at it. They were very patient as well, Kev, because for me, the first child goes down on the mat, plonked there usually by a parent, and it was a lot of preschool stuff we were doing, and they would burst out crying. And for me, that was, I don't want to do this. But Sam was very good with it.
Yeah, no, Gemma has never really been into it. She does make some lovely little Instagram posts, I've got to say, over the years. She likes it, scrapbooking type things. But no, she's never really kind of shown much interest in it.
Does Gemma have a public profile then on Instagram? Or is it?
No, it's private, but it's there. Yeah, so she has she's good. She's got a nice eye for things that she sees around. That's for sure. But she's very good at art. She's a great painter and drawer and sketcher. So.
She's a great designer, isn't she? She's got a great eye for design.
Yeah, she is. She's got that kind of. She's definitely got a creative twist in her. That's for sure. Yeah. Good question, Steve. And Steve's Instagram, by the way, you can always give us your Instagrams as well. Is SCFelonPhoto, SCFELLONFOTO on Instagram. Some nice pictures there.
Perfect. Good. Mike Marin says, Kev, Neil, quick question. For black and white with my X100F, I've been using the Acros simulation. Are the contrast and stroke or other features of the image affected by the ISO? If I'm shooting outside on a bright day, is there any value in setting a particular ISO, maybe 400 for example, compared to letting the camera just go wild and choose? Thanks from Mike, who's in Oakfield, Ontario in Canada.
No, I think the answer is no, because the ISO, it's not true ISO in modern mirrorless cameras. It's kind of digitized, if you like. So I don't think that it would affect contrast. Of course, it will affect grain, in the lower light. And some people, I've done it myself on a few occasions, put the ISO up quite high on bright sunny days just to bake in a little bit of grain into the image. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure about contrast. I can't give a definitive answer to that, but I wouldn't have thought so.
No. Right. Well, that's that one dealt with.
Quick question, quick answer.
It was QA. Go on. You're back to Facebook. We're going to power through these Facebook ones.
Yeah, we are. We won't have any left after a while. Okay, Rosemary Minto says, Happy Christmas and New Year, guys. I was using my new XT5 to shoot a Taekwondo gradient and was trying out facial recognition. And in brackets, before the firmware update. I was caught out by battery emptying faster on this mode and, of course, didn't have extra ones with me. I had walked for hours in Sydney and the battery lasted most of the day on single shot. Question is, what are the settings most likely to drain the battery from the XT series? Thanks, Rosemary. And her Instagram handle is at ROSE Mint, MINT _photos, PHOTO. OS.
I hope you're spelling along with Kev. It's like an episode of Sesame Street.
I know, but the thing is, I'm trying to type it in at the same time as reading it, and I was caught by Steve. Previous question, Steve, who you spelt photos with a F, the true Welsh way, and then Rosemary spells it with a PH. Yeah. So face recognition will drain the battery quicker. Certainly, if it's in combination with continuous focus and CH. High speed burst, that will definitely. But the tip I give mostly the tip that I give people if they want to save the battery is to switch off as much of the display stuff on the electronic viewfinder and the LCD on the back of the screen that you don't need. So you can go into the disp custom settings and switch off things like, I don't know, if you don't need the horizon, you don't need the histogram, perhaps you don't need the date time, all that kind of stuff. So whatever you don't need, switch it off on the LCD, and that does save a little bit of battery power. But yeah, I mean, you will find the X-T5 is a great camera actually, battery wise. It's it's obviously a lot better than the previous iterations. But when you're shooting, and I noticed this when I was shooting the boxing before Christmas, I was using the X-T5 and the GFX 100 Mark II thing. And yeah, it does start to drain with the face recognition. Ironically, if you are just using CH, shooting in high-speed bursts without face recognition, that doesn't seem to affect the battery too much. But with the face recognition, I think it does start to drain things because there's a lot more processing, a lot more kind of computational fairies pedaling a lot harder inside. So that would be as expected. But yeah, the answer, Rosemary, take more batteries with you if you're going to do that. Or get one of those amazing kind of Niwa or whatever they're called battery packs that you can just plug in and shoot.
I'm not sure whether I've got this message in my inbox, but I think we'll probably save it for the Patreon pop-up, won't we? It's hi Neil, hi Kev. It's from Eric, and he wants to talk about Substack versus having your own blog. Do you think it's a good question for here, or should we save it for pop-up? That's a nice tease, isn't it? Should we save it for the Patreon pop-up?
Yeah, let's save it.
Yeah. Done.
Mostly because I don't know what that is. But yeah.
You don't know what Substack is?
Well, I've heard of it. I know you use it, but yeah, I wouldn't be able to bring much to that conversation at the moment. Let me research it and we'll do it on the pop-up.
Yeah. The other day I noticed that Stephen Fry's on Substack, and he also records the audio for every single one of his pieces that he does. Love it. Having Stephen Fry in your pocket, for me, that's like the best gift for 2025. I'm really going to enjoy listening to that. He's one of my favouriteest creative people in the world. Craig Smith, then. Hi, Kev. Hi, Neil. A question after some downtime, sifting through family photos from the year. How do you deal with eyeglasses and shallow depth of field? I kept nailing frames this year, leaving the eyes just slightly blurry. The shots were generally fine, but I could tell the few where I'd nailed the eyes because they had an extra sparkle. Sometimes I stop down for more depth, but other times low light, similar considerations make stopping down impractical. Any tips for trying to focus behind the frames? Well, that's a very good question, actually, isn't it, Kev?
It can be tricky to get the focus right, that's for sure.
Well, I suppose if you're doing something like one of your really spectacular portraits that you're doing, Kev, this is head and shoulders, face, you want to get it absolutely spot on. But when you're a bit further away, it's not so...
Well, if you're using something like a GFX with 1.7 f1.7 lens, then the depth of it, I mean, that's the difference between eyelashes being in focus and not. It's that precise. So what I tend to do with people with spectacles is, first of all, I have a conversation with them about whether they want pictures with them on or off or both. And then I'll use the autofocus as much as possible with them on. But I'll check the images, make sure that they are sharp. And if I'm really struggling because of the position of the light or whatever, then I'll manually focus. So I'll put the little press the rear command dial in so it zooms into where the focus area is, and then I'll manually focus so I can ensure that the focus point is there. Of course, if they move their head forward or back a bit, then all bets are off again. You've got to start again. So it is tricky. It can be tricky, but that's the way that I would typically do it. Use manual focus, and just review the images as you go along to make sure they are working.
Yeah. Facebook then. Look at this, Kev. Look, another one. Tick that one. Poof, gone.
All right, Leah Murphy says, "Hi guys, I use Squarespace 7 for my website, and as far as I know, switching to 7.1 would involve a total rebuild as there is no import and convert feature. I've read that starting completely over like this will impact SEO. Kevin Mullins, as one whose YouTube channel is often sponsored by Squarespace, I wondered if you could speak about this. Thanks very much." And yes, so there is actually a tool, Leah. There wasn't until about 18 months ago, but Squarespace does have a tool now for converting from Squarespace 7 to 7.1. It's very easy, works very well, has no impact whatsoever on your SEO or anything like that. So it's totally free if you've got a 7 site. I recommend doing it because 7.1 is a far better system for building your website. So yeah, the simple answer, Leah, is that you can just go to Squarespace. Just Google moving from Squarespace version 7 to 7.1 and you'll land on the Squarespace tool page that will do it all for you.
7.1 has resulted in a lot of sites looking fairly samey, similar ideas. Whereas before, of course, with the templates, sometimes the menus could be down on the left-hand side, blah, 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 lots of different designs. What's your thoughts about the change? Obviously, the change was made for the right reasons, in that across platforms, across different browsers, it works seamlessly, and mobile phones and tablets are important as well as part of that process. But some of the sites, for me, Kev, a bit more samey now because there's not so much you can do with stuff like menu design.
I can see what you're saying, but Squarespace 7 had a set of templates. The most famous one that people will probably be aware of is the brine template, which was lovely. And so you had I think there was 16 templates. So basically there was 16 different styles of site that, for everybody in the world to share. But Squarespace 7.1 is completely different in that you have complete and utter full control over absolutely everything. Now, most people, I think what you're probably referring to is most people just kind of start with the 7.1. They call it a launch point. It's not a template, it's a launch point. And, kind of just kind of accept the defaults, really. But you've got far more control. You can put your menus wherever you want. You can do whatever you want.
You can't put them down the side like some photojournalists do, which I quite like.
You can do that, but it's a little bit complicated. You'd have to do a little bit of CSS with that.
Yeah, See, most people aren't programming using CSS.
Yeah, but you can tell it to have the menus. I'm fairly sure you can set the menus to go down the side. I've never done that, so I don't know. I've not tried it.
No, you can't. Well, unless somebody's going to say, yes, you can, Neil. Actually, you can. But I can't find a way to do that.
I can see what you're saying in that a lot of people will kind of take the defaults and just enter the content rather than work with the new blueprints that allow them to have a complete and utter control over it.
Yeah, but still, I have no regrets of moving over to Squarespace from where I was before. No regrets at all. Never want to go back.
No, especially not with all the palaver that WordPress is having at the moment. With
I don't know about that. What's going on?
The head honcho at WordPress.org is throwing his toys out the pram about certain developers, and people are getting very twitchy about it, and a lot of sites are starting to see the consequences of that. Yeah. Anyway, that's a different thing. I don't use WordPress anymore, thankfully.
Here's one from Mark Thomas. Hi, Kev. Hi, Neil. To answer your question, do you have listeners in Merthyr Tydfil? Yes, you do. And I am one of them. Do you know him, Mark Thomas? Ever met him?
I actually know 2 Mark Thomases, but I'm
not that one.
I'm guessing it's probably not the same one.
No.
It's neither of them.
I like Kev's digs at Merthyr, though, especially as I'm actually from Cardiff. Oh, so that's all right then, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got a question about the X100 VI. I've shot quite a few photos in the... How do you pronounce this, Kev? Is it Hive or Heath? Heath. I
call it HEIF
format, but they seem to slow down my M2 Pro Mac Mini so much that I prefer to shoot RAW and / other JPEG. Is this normal? Love the show. I'm sure Kev will still be welcome back to visit Merthyr. Best wishes from Mark. Now, we talked about this format before, haven't we, and how it can slow some stuff up.
I'm not sure why it would slow something up, I've got to say. I mean, the format is more compressed, so maybe it's a decompressing kind of issue.
So it's a bit like when you use H.265, which is more compressed than H.264.
Yeah, in video format, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. When he says slowing his Mac down, does that mean when he's using Lightroom, or is it just
he doesn't say that.
Importing them?
No,
is it just displaying them on the screen? I don't know.
I would imagine it's the workflow process, of editing. And actually, an M2 Pro, this should not be slow at all. I really don't understand why it would be. Although, when we've talked about video in the past, the more compressed the file, the slower stuff seems to become, because there's so much more that the gnomes need to do under that hood, isn't there?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But it's marginal. I can't see it. I can't see how it would be, noticeably slower. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I shoot HIF, and I don't have any. I've never thought this is slower.
No.
Either editing, displaying, importing, whatever. None of that. So
maybe Mark's got the wrong gnomes.
Maybe he's got the wrong gnomes. Yeah. Maybe I tell you what the answer is, Mark. Move from Merthyr Tydfil, and everything will be better.
Do you think that's what it's? Yeah, it's a Merthyr problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We'll put that in the. Hang on. Slide it onto the Merthyr problems folder just on the left. Right, Kev. Oh, how are we doing for time? We are firing through these. We're only at the 30-minute-ish mark. Go on.
Jeremy Baker, our friend JB.
Oh, friend Jeremy, yes.
Kevin Neal, what photo in 2024 has grabbed you by the metaphorical lapels and inspired you, left you speechless, touched or tearful, whether you've taken it or seen it for the first time, and why?
Blimey, photographs from this. I don't think any of mine have necessarily left me in tears.
The only one I can think of, really, because that's kind of been thrown at us a bit quick, hasn't it? But the only one I can think of is there was an article on the BBC the other day about best sports photos of 2024.
Yeah,
and there was that one from the Olympics, the 100-meter final, and the photographer had obviously taken hundreds and hundreds of pictures throughout the race, but he or she, I don't know who it was shooting along the track, so not on the side but along the track.
Right.
Managed to do a composite of every kind of meter, if you like. Well, no, it couldn't be that. It must be 10 meters. So effectively, you could see where every runner was in every 10-meter stage in this frame. And it's a magical picture. And you can see how close they were, in that race. And that struck me, but only because I was looking at it the other day and thinking, wow, that is very, very impressive. So not technically a single image, but quite an amazing use of technology and display of speed and athleticism, I thought.
I just looked it up because I thought, right, group pictures from 2024, news photographs, and there's a few that I recognise, a few horrible ones in the year. I do remember the one from the Maldives, which was the sharks. It was taken from above. It's a drone photograph. I'd love to have a drone again, Kev. I've not got a drone at the moment. And this is amazing. It shows them rounding up shoals of fish, but it just looks like a beautiful pattern in the water. And where the sharks have been, it sort of opens up. There's a passageway that opens up. The fish move to one side. I remember that shot from the year. They've not necessarily moved me to tears, but it's one of the ones I remember. Do you still have your drone?
Yeah, it's in Spain.
Well,
it's really the only place I ever fly it.
Useful for when you go to Spain. I suppose the big news one of the year, the one I really recall from the year, would have been Trump with the what was the photographer's name? Began with V. The surname was with V. Ooh. Anyway, it was he had his hand aloft just after his ear had been nicked.
Yeah,
and that huge American flag in the background. I mean, as far as composing a photograph in the midst of absolute bedlam, where everybody is considered a threat. It was a courageous photograph to take, because I would imagine they would have been eyeballed as well, the photographers at that stage.
No, absolutely. That was a remarkable photo, definitely
potent. Yeah. And actually, I think he moved purposefully around, knowing that he needed to get that flag on. There was a lot that was happening in his mind as he was making these photographs. And Trump was being moved, as you can imagine, very quickly. They wanted to get rid of him into a car, didn't they, to get him away to hospital. But yeah, I remember that picture as a big news one from the year. What about personal ones that you've taken, Kev? Anything that you've personally thought, oh,
Not really. I mean, I remember taking one in Spain. It was on my phone, and it was just of the kids. We were going to a festival, I think, so they were kind of smartly dressed. And I remember looking at that for the first time and realizing that Albie was now taller than Rosa. That my kids were no longer kids; they were now young adults.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh my God, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was a moment I remember from a picture.
I suppose because I'm still shooting weddings and you're not, there's going to be photographs from that sort of collection for me. Was it during the year? I don't know. The years passed so quickly, Kev, but I think it was this year where I took the picture of the mum and the daughter and the grandmother. The grandmother was suffering or is suffering from dementia, but it was one moment where there was a moment of lucidity, and I managed to capture it in a frame. That one I'm particularly proud of. But I think that was this year. Of course, good question, Jeremy. Jeremy's questions are very good, Kev.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Klaus, I think it's Kunkel, Kev. I've got to be very careful. Klaus Kunkel. Hi, Neil. Hi, Kev. Love the podcast. Question about ISO. I know we've done an ISO one, but we'll have another. As I understand it, Neil uses flash during weddings, and Kev doesn't use flash. The other day, I found myself in an old train station building converted into a coffee roasting facility. I know the owner and offered to shoot some photos during the roasting, tasting and general mingling. The room had very poor lighting, so I was shooting at around 4,000 to 6,000 ISO with my Canon R6 II with a 24-70 2.8 lens, down to 1/60th or 1/100th shutter speed, which is not bad, and f2.8. After shooting 163 frames in the poor light, I did go for my flash, and from then on fired it upwards or to the side. When editing the photos in Lightroom, I struggled with noise and muddy colours. And then I thought about the easy way out, convert to black and white. So I guess my question is, how high would you go? Would you push ISO in very poor lighting before the noise and image quality becomes unacceptable to you? If not using a flash, that is. So there we go. Thanks, says Klaus, and best regards. What do you think, Kev? I don't. When you say I use flash during weddings, I don't have that flash on all the time. No, I use it for the dancing shots, and just before Christmas, I did use it in the reception when, honestly, the lighting in one of the rooms when I was trying to move about and just get pictures of people drinking and having a chat, but honestly, there was no shape at all to these pictures, so I employed flash, pointed backwards, and managed to bring a bit more three dimension into the photographs. That was why I used it. Otherwise, yeah, they can end up muddy. And if you're doing it for clients, I think they want a hell of a lot of muddy photos or just ones in black and white. So there has been occasion where I've used flash for that reason, but not often, Kev. Actually, I think you can push the ISO quite a long way. And obviously, he's using Canon. So with the R6 II, I haven't seen what it's like in low light, Kev. I would imagine it's got to be fairly good.
Yeah, I think if you're getting the images you need, I'm quite happy to go up to 12,800, and the noise reduction stuff in Lightroom nowadays is just absolutely phenomenal.
I wish you could do like a batch process of that, though, Kev.
You can. Just takes time. You select as many as you want in the film strip, and then hit the denoise button. The only problem you'll have is that whatever percentage you choose, I nearly always leave it on 50%.
Yeah, me too.
Will be applied to every single one. And obviously it goes off and creates DNG files, so it can take time. But yeah, I've done it. I did it on all the boxing stuff.
I did not know that, Kev. Every day's a school day.
But of course, when it comes back to flash, if you want to use the light, if the direction of light is not there and it's muddy and horrible, then even a denoised image will still look grim if you're not controlling the light properly. So yeah, there's no harm in using flash at all. Depends on what you want to get out of it, really.
Well, let's have one more Facebook, one more email, and then I think you're actually, as we're recording this show, Kev's going away for the weekend. He's going for you've put together a really nice surprise for. I was sort of like saying it like I didn't want her to find out, but of course she should have been on been on the weekend by the time this comes out. You've got a really nice weekend planned for Gemma for her birthday.
Yes, she deserves a nice weekend away. So. Stephen Jack, he says, hello, Kevin. Hello, Neil. When using images for your portfolio side of the website, the ones to showcase your work, do you upload these as full res or use the same export process from Lightroom for other images on your site stroke galleries?
Well, I don't use Lightroom to make pictures, optimize pictures for the website. I use Blogstomp. So the full res goes into Blogstomp, and then out of Blogstomp, I use the pictures that I've optimized according to the size I want them, which is currently 2,500 pixels wide.
Yeah, it's the same as me, but I don't use Blogstomp. But I always recommend, Stephen, even for blog images, for showcase images, for every image that you're putting online from Lightroom, export at 100%. Do not bring it down to
never.
90% or 85% or anything like that. And use something like Blogstomp. I use TinyPNG. So TinyPNG, 2,500 pixels wide, 100% from Lightroom, and throw it into TinyPNG. It will squeeze it down with no noticeable difference. Or Blogstomp, or what's the other one called?
There's another one called. There's one here that I've just noticed. I quite like the icon. It's a little. I think it says diet something. It's a can of pop icon. It's JPEG Mini. JPEG Mini. That's it.
JPEG Mini. Yeah. So yeah, use something like that. Always export from Lightroom at high res is my advice, and then smush it some other way. JPEG, TinyPNG is free you can do 20 images at a time, or you can pay a little bit more and have unlimited images. But I use TinyPNG. I used to use JPEG Mini actually, but I didn't like the application. So
I've got a feeling that's why I've got JPEG Mini, because you used it once and said it was good. So
it was good. It was very good. Yeah. I just didn't like the interface and the way.
I wonder why I went with Blogstomp. I just always used it. Why would you not make images or export them for web use out of something like Photoshop or Lightroom? Why would you personally not choose to do it that way?
Because if you're exporting from Lightroom at say 90%, what it's doing there is reducing the quality by 10%, which in turn will reduce the file size, of course. But if you export at 100% and then use a compression tool like Blogstomp, TinyPNG, whatever, then that's not directly affecting the quality. All it's doing is taking away elements of the file that's not needed, like metadata and empty space in the the kind of data behind the image, etc. So it's not making the quality less; it's just making the file size less.
All right, okay. Right. Last question of the show. Please keep getting them in, sending them in to click@fujicast.co.uk or via the Facebook page. We are hyper duper ooper organised now, because Neil Ford is in charge of the Facebook side of stuff. Now, this email is from Tony Boring. Now, I know you're going to say to me, Kev, that's not a real name. I suspect it isn't. But he is from Tennessee. He says, hi, Neil. Hi, Kev. When I look at the rest of the email, that's why I say that. I have a 1-hour work commute and love listening to you two on my way home from work. I let a couple of episodes build up so I can listen to multiple casts at a time. There is a cure, Tony. When did you get confident in your ability to nail exposure? With you both shooting weddings in your careers, it seems it would be a bit nerve-wracking. I do decent during blue golden hour jobs, but indoors and in harsh light outside, I'm struggling. Any tips, gear, books or courses that you would recommend? I've watched hundreds of hours of YouTube videos on the exposure triangle, but they never seem to really show how many attempts it took them to get it properly exposed. I've got an XT4, a 16 to 80 f4, a Sigma 18 to 35 1.8. I haven't shot a wedding, but I would like to. Thank you in advance. From Tony. Actually, there's a few parts here. So first of all, when did you get really confident in your ability to nail exposure? I think, Kev, I was pretty confident with DSLRs, but I mean, let's be honest, the moment mirrorless came out, you were seeing right in front of your eyes what was really happening. So it's probably then, really.
Yeah, I mean, that made a massive difference. Of course, both you and I, used to use SLRs or DSLRs. So you didn't have the virtue of the benefit of seeing the images you're going to shoot it. So that is a massive benefit. I think a lot of people overthink it a little bit too much, I've got to say. So, be trusting of your camera. Allow, as I've said many times, I'm more than happy to shoot in full automatic mode and let the camera take complete control over everything effectively. And then my responsibility is composition and seeing the image, etc. I mean, you do need to understand your exposure. And if you really want to try and nail it, exactly, then I would suggest making sure the histogram is on display on your viewfinder. Get your histogram stacked correctly, and the exposure should be right. I mean, the fact is, today, in this day and age, we have cameras that shoot 1 million frames per second and make a cup of tea for you and do all kinds of other things. So you do end up shooting a lot of images. So, back in the day when people shot on film, for example, they would have to use a light meter because, you've got a roll of 36 or whatever it is, and then you run out. So you need to make everyone count. But in some ways, it's good that we don't have to worry about that these days. And also in some ways, I think it does make people a little bit lazy like me. But yeah, let the camera take as much of the strain, and don't beat yourself up too much. There's a lot of latitude in images these days. In those cameras that you just mentioned, there's you're going to have between 7 and 5 stops of exposure correction that you can do in post production as well. So don't miss moments because you're worrying about the exposure and whether you've got it exactly right. But certainly do your best to get it right, of course. Yeah.
Who used to say in Dad's Army, "Don't panic, don't panic." I was Jonesy, wasn't it? Jones. There we go.
Yeah,
that's a mantra to take with you when you're out worrying about exposure. Don't panic. Right, that's it for another week. You're off now to Londinium to the smoke, Kev. Oh, romantic week away, a weekend, not a week, a weekend away with Gemma. How lovely. You've booked a very nice, a special restaurant that you will have gone to on Friday. What was that one, Kev?
Roast.
Oh.
Yeah, roast.
Lovely.
Laurel Street. I'm looking forward to that, gotta say.
Yeah. Well, have a nice time, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Pop-up, of course, is next week, and we'll get to that question that was sent in by Eric, which is all about blog versus Substack, which I think could be quite an interesting question. So we'll answer that one on the Pop-Up. See you very soon. Bye, Kev. Bye.
The Fujicast is an independent Loading Zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.